Boy George is internationally known and loved as the flamboyant frontman of the Grammy-winning 80s supergroup Culture Club. And now, after countless hits and more than 50 million records sold, the iconic band is returning to go back on tour in the United States. And Boy George joins me now to discuss the upcoming tour, a new album in the works, and his whole career. So we've got, let's do it, George.
I'm just getting comfortable here.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great to have you. So, has this felt like a long time in the coming, the reunion?
You know what? It's one of those things that it just felt right. But we did start the process kind of 3 years ago. We talked about it 3 years ago. And there were lots of kind of, little business, politics things to deal with. But we went to Spain about 5 months ago, recorded a new album. That was amazing. We did our first live show last Tuesday in London.
How was that?
We got great reviews. I was really shocked. I was like, 6 good reviews. I mean, I've been, in this business over 30 years. I don't think I ever had that many good reviews for anything. So there's a sense that, there's a lot of love for what we represented, I think. And it's just nice to kind of feel that, especially over here.
Yeah.
Because I think in America, we had such a kind of social impact. It was the beginning of the MTV era, and, there were a lot of little kids living in the middle of nowhere, little young gay boys and girls that suddenly went, oh, look, there's one of us. So I felt like back then, we represented kind of not only the kind of gay community, but we were a multicultural band. We were really the sort of flag wavers for the kind of outcasts and the misfits. Anyone that just felt a little bit left of centre, they could kind of join our club.
Do you love that? Do you love that is what you represent for so many people? I know it's kind of it's almost like a heavy badge to wear, I should imagine. I think
at this point, I'm very proud of it. I think, I'll be really honest, when I was 19, I was just full of my own self-importance.
Shocking, a 19-year-old.
I was doing my own thing, and I really wasn't thinking about the sort of social impact of what we were doing. I was just being myself. Sometimes, the most political thing you can do is to be yourself. It's really over the years since I've been coming back here, when people have sort of come up to me and said, I was a little kid living in the middle of nowhere and knew I was gay, or even, down to things like, there were certain countries, like South America, where we weren't allowed to go in the 80s. I wasn't allowed into Russia, I wasn't allowed into Argentina, Chile, so when we finally got to go to those places, it was amazing to hear how people got hold of our records, even in places like Russia, which was really mind-blowing, where people actually smuggled our records into Russia.
That's going to be such a... What does that do to, an artist when they hear that? Back then, when you heard these things, these stories from fans, how did you even process that? I should imagine that was very difficult.
Well, you know what? I mean, you want to touch people. I think that's the key thing that, and I think, really at this point, my favourite thing is to kind of reach people emotionally, because, we don't have the kind of hysteria of what... There might be some of that, I don't know. We haven't started the tour yet, but... when you're, as I say, when you're younger, you're just doing your thing and you're not thinking about it. It's only now that you get to look back and go, wow, this is what we meant to people.
So, how does nostalgia sit with you, though? I mean, do you sort of indulge? Do you kind of look back through the scrapbooks? I don't know, do you even have any scrapbooks?
I do have some things, but, I've been very lucky, so I've been DJing for the last 25 years, so that's given me the great out from nostalgia. I haven't had to really think about my past because I've been involved in a very kind of, current kind of dance scene. So in a way, I have a really good relationship with the past because I haven't had to live in it. So I can come back to it, with pleasure because, I've done other things.
Do you feel frustrated, people, when they do ask you about the past? Do you feel frustrated that, they kind of want to put you back there or take you back there? Is that sort of... Does that kind of annoy you a little bit sometimes? I
think at this point, I'm kind of really proud of my legacy. Having grown up a little bit, I just feel like I'm able to look back at the things I've achieved and be proud of it. I think it's important. I think the British, we really struggle with compliments. This is one of the great things about being in America is that people aren't shy to say what they're proud of and what they've done. And I think that's why I love America because there isn't that kind of cynicism that we have in the UK. People aren't embarrassed about success in America.
Well, you can wear it proud. I mean, in the UK, if you're, you'd be too big for your boots, right? If you're,
and there's a good side to that as well because it kind of keeps you, level-headed. But I don't know. I think I just love the kind of enthusiasm of America. And, we were, obviously it's a bigger place, there's more people. So we were very popular here. And it's going to be exciting to start our tour here in America.
Well, I know we've got some fans that are dying to speak to you, so I shan't postpone it any longer. Joining us now is a fan of yours. This is Glenn Cunningham in Ireland. So, Glenn, welcome to HuffPost Live. You're on with Boy George. What's your question for him?
Oh yeah, George just said there about compliments. Can I just give you a quick compliment? You played some of your new music last week, including Runaway Train, from your new CD, which I think is going to be absolutely huge. I think it's going to be some of your best work. But my question is, the new CD is called Tribes. When is it released, and what inspired the name?
It's going to be released, I think, February next year. There'll be a single imminent. It's coming very soon. And the album really is a tribute to all those things that we grew up with in the 70s and the 80s, punk rock, glam rock, rockabilly, new romanticism, all of that stuff that was very, very, very British, all those kind of tribal sort of fashion movements. And
well, Malcolm McLaren basically discovered you, didn't he? Well, or he credits that, doesn't he? That's as legend has it anyway.
Yeah, you know what? When I was, I think I was 16 when I met Malcolm, and he was the manager of the Sex Pistols. So I used to actually go around telling everyone he was my manager when he wasn't. And I briefly worked with him, but yeah, I mean, he was a legend, and a lot of respect for him.
Well, so talk to me a little bit more about kind of coming and approaching music today. Do you feel different in the way that you are approaching this work at this stage in your career?
No, I think we went back to all the things that we loved when we were growing up, from, as I said before, glam rock, punk rock, the new romantic thing, sort of electro, and we just threw all of those things into a big wok, turned the heat up and just did our thing. And the album is very eclectic, but then we were always very eclectic. There's country, the single More Than Silence is, kind of rock, but there's all sorts of elements in there, reggae, soca, everything. It's all in there.
Well, lots of people are excited about the tour itself. This is a comment here from Jordan, who says, "Hi, George. Can you please tell us how many costumes you'll be wearing for the Culture Club tour? I know you said you were out to show Lady Gaga how real glamour is done. We've seen you with many new hats, etc. Do tell us, diehard fans like myself can't wait to see you in New Jersey." So you're going to outshow Lady Gaga? You know what?
I don't think I have the stamina to kind of compete with Lady Gaga. I mean, she kind of wears it all, and we love her for that, But I will up the ante a bit.
Well, what does that mean for you? Because you have done some
bigger hats.
Things.
I got some things being made. When I get to LA, I'm going to see some of the costumes that I've sort of commissioned for the show.
That's going to be so fun that you get to commission it.
But I'm not going to be, I think 53. It will be kind of smart tailoring with a twist.
So you're not going to be wearing meat.
I'm not going to be wearing it. Well, I'm a vegetarian.
So you're going to be wearing asparagus. There won't be any raw food on you.
I wasn't a fan. That was probably my least favourite Lady Gaga outfit. I think, being a vegetarian, probably not a good thing to wear.
Yeah, but just maybe some asparagus, some mushrooms.
Yeah, some asparagus, maybe some broccoli.
Who knows? Well, we have a video question coming in. This is from Adrian in Australia. Let's take a listen.
Good morning, George from Melbourne, Australia. Hope you're well. Got a couple of quick questions to ask you. The first one is, which bands are you currently listening to, and did they influence the sound or style of any of the songs on the upcoming Culture Club album? And also, I've got to ask, will you be touring Down Under anytime soon?
Well, we were influenced by a very young artist called Johnny Cash. Have you heard of him? The influences on this record are really kind of classic and vintage, from Johnny Cash. I was actually on a solo tour and I was in Boston like a year ago, and I got into a taxi cab, and this young taxi driver was playing some really, really old Johnny Cash. And I just remember, obviously I love Johnny Cash, but I remember just thinking how great and raw it sounded. So I went away and wrote this song called Runaway Train, and I actually mentioned being in Boston. The opening line is rolled into Boston, heart on my sleeve. So it's all about being in America on the tour. But yeah, the influences on this record are classic. We just went for the real classic Bowie, Roxy music, a lot of funk in there. There's a song on there called Different Man, which is a song I wrote about Sly Stone, who's one of my heroes. A lot of funk, a lot of, old stuff.
What did it feel like kind of working together again in that way? Because obviously you've everyone that's been together before, you're reuniting, you have a past. You guys have a past. How was it kind of coming into the same space? You know, lots of people have been making, you know, a thing, I guess, of you and John Moss. Obviously, you'd been in, well, not in a relationship.
Once we were lovers.
Well, so yeah, you were lovers, and then now you're not. And
no, we're not. No, we're not. Very much not.
Not very much not. So, yeah, how was it going into
I think that, you know, human beings are strange and beautiful creatures, and we don't really, you know, I always say to that, you know, life's not a headline. You know, you kind of, the best way to describe being in a band, it's like going home for Christmas to the family. You know, it's like going home and dealing with all those things that go on in families, you know. But one of the great things about making a record is that once you're focused on what you're doing creatively, nothing matters. You know, all the sort of personality problems and behavior kind of go out the window, and it's almost like a spiritual experience, you know, because everybody's working towards the same thing. And then once that's done, you're back to dealing with the personalities. I think the hardest thing is being on the road. Because obviously, you know, you're on stage for a couple of hours, but the rest of the time you're traveling with each other. So, you know, ask me that question after the tour. I'll come back.
Yeah, come back after the tour. Well, yeah, definitely.
But I think that we've all sufficiently grown up enough to, you know, we're really respectful of each other. You know, like even today I've had phone calls back and forth with Roy, you know, what are we going to do about this? What do you think about that? And you know, we try to kind of deal with each other, you know, with humour. You know, obviously the old personality traits are still there, but we try to be a bit more respectful. You know, I had a situation recently because I changed part of a song, and Roy sent me a message saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if I like it. You know, would you do this?" And I actually just sent him back a message saying no. And then he was like, and then I thought, actually, I better write another one. So I wrote another nicer one. And he said, actually, I prefer the first one. So I think we kind of understand each other's personalities now. You know, we get each other.
I've got a comment coming in from Ryan Buxton. He says, Melissa Etheridge told HuffPost Live recently that after she came out, reporters and celebrities would come out to her all the time. Did anything similar happen to Boy George when he first came to the forefront of gender and sexuality?
More that people would say, oh, you know, you gave me confidence to deal with my sexuality. I don't think I've ever... Most people that I meet that are gay, I kind of know already when I meet them. Like, people always say to me, meet my friend, do you think he's gay? I get that a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Well, people say, like, you know, get the Boy George gaydar out.
Meet my friend. And I have to say, a lot of the time, I don't really know. Because, you know, the thing is...
Do you have good gaydar?
I have to say, you know what, I don't really have good gaydar. I mean, obviously, if somebody's a mincing fairy, then obviously it's like, well, yeah, they might be gay, you know, depending on how tight their trousers are. But sometimes I just don't know. It's like when people say, how old do you think I am? I never know. I just, you know, I don't generally think like regular people. So to me, and also, I don't really care if someone's gay or straight.
Yeah.
It's like, are you interesting? Do you know what I mean? Are you interesting? Have you got something interesting to say? It doesn't really matter. You know, your sexuality to me is, you know.
You must, I mean, but you dealt with that a lot, didn't you? You know, when Culture Club kind of first came to prominence. I mean, you, Annie Lennox, so there's a fantastic cover. I hope we've got it. Do we have that Newsweek cover? It was Time or Newsweek? I can't remember. I don't know if we've got it. If we do, it'd be, there it is.
Newsweek.
This is just fantastic for me. We had Annie Lennox on
I have a great story about that photo shoot.
Oh, go on, please.
Well, she was having her makeup done by the same girl that was doing me, and her name was Lynn something. And I overheard Annie saying to the makeup artist, "Don't make me look like George." Because, you know, at that point, we had the kind of similar androgynous look. You know, it was the same makeup artist. So I'll never forget that. But I mean, Annie and Lennox was amazing and is still amazing, you know.
We were having a chat when she was here, and we were talking about the idea of being an icon and what that means, and whether she kind of related to that. And she's extremely, you know, obviously very humble and sort of distances herself from that term. People label you as an icon, though. How do you process that? Do you wake up in the morning and
morning icon?
Do you? Yeah, good. Hi, darling. But you know, yeah. What do you?
Well, I think listen. I think, you know, we talked earlier about the British and struggling with compliments. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing for anyone to call you that, you know. But it's not something you call yourself. It's something that has to be bestowed upon you. It's not something that you know. You can't say, "Oh, I want to be iconic," you know. And I think, I don't know, what does it mean anyway? What does it mean? It means that you've done something that's stuck in people's minds. You know, you did something that, you know, stayed around. I mean, I think if you look at all the kind of most kind of memorable and recognisable stars of the last 50 years, you know, they all had something more than the music. You know, Elvis, you know, there was something about him. Madonna, Prince, you know, I think all of those people, when you think about them, you also think about things they wore, you know, and behaviour. So I think that's, in a way, what makes someone iconic. But it's impossible for me to sort of say whether I think I'm iconic.
Well, I mean, so all right, people have given
ironic.
You that label. Iconic, ironic. Well, I mean, when you look at the scene today, I suppose, do you see people, you know, obviously we mentioned Lady Gaga before. Are there people coming up that you're like, that's an icon, like that you can kind of see that interest or specialness to them?
There's a great. I don't know about. I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think iconic things take time.
Right.
You can't say in a week, oh, someone's iconic. But there's one of my favourite artists at the moment. Is it Ben Howard? I think it's called Ben Howard. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that had a hit a couple of years ago and actually won an award at the Brits in the UK. And I just saw him performing recently. Yeah. And the new record is very, very exciting. I mean, I couldn't even believe it was the same person. I was blown away. And, you know, obviously being a DJ, you know, a lot of my references are kind of dance people. So things like Disclosure.
Which
obviously,
is fab.
I love Sam Smith, you know, things like, there's British bands like Second City, Breach. And then sort of DJs, really, producers, Vanilla Ace, you know, Monica Cruz, all sorts of Dawley, you know, one of my favourite producers, DJs, but it's all dance stuff. So unless you go to clubs, those sort of names will mostly go over your head.
I know everyone's Googling like I just did now. Hang on, wait, who is it?
Well, I do a monthly podcast, which is free, called Club Culture on iTunes. So it's free. Obviously, you can download it, and it kind of, I try to introduce people into lots of, you know, new people and also lots of classic stuff as well.
So talk to me a little bit, when we touched on this a bit earlier, but talk to me a little bit about gay rights and where they stand at the moment. You know, it's an interesting thing that just came out in the UK. I guess just, you know, earlier today, actually, this Nicky Morgan, she's the Equalities Minister, she said, I've changed my mind and support gay marriage. She was one of the MPs that actually voted against legalising same-sex marriage in the UK. And now she sort of said, oh, I've changed my mind.
Well, I think it's a smart person and a brave person, especially a politician, who can stand up and say, actually, I got it wrong. You know, and I think, actually, rather than sort of condemning her for that, I think that's a great thing, you know, because we all do stuff and say stuff that we wish we hadn't said. You know, I'm the king of that. I mean, I could give you a book on things I was like, oh, did I really say that? How embarrassing. So I think good on her, you know. And, you know, in a way, you know, all of this stuff starts in the head. If you want to change the way that you feel about something, it always starts in your mind. You know, you've got to use your brain, and you've got to start understanding that, you know, whatever you are, whoever you are, you have the right to love and to have a relationship. It surprises me that conservative people don't support marriage, you know, because in a way it's gay people buying into a sort of traditional institution. And you would think that they would kind of like that, that it was quite sort of, you know, conservative in a way. So it always surprises me when people have a problem with that, you know. You know, I mean, it's not something I'd want to do. I don't want to marry anybody.
You don't? Yeah.
No.
Why is that?
I think, I mean, the key, you have to find someone to marry you.
It's a very good point. Yeah, step one.
I don't know if I've got time for that. You know, I mean, obviously, you've got to be really careful what you say, because, you know, suddenly then you find, you know, you've met the man or woman of your dreams and you are getting married. But it's not something that, it's not high on my agenda, you know. But I love, you know, listen, I want, you know, it's nice that people kind of fall in love and commit to each other, and that's sort of seems to be something that I'm surprised that the sort of conservative people don't sort of love that.
Yeah. Does it surprise you? You know, when you come to America, and obviously we've seen there's been some fantastic, you know, progress in terms of LGBTQ rights.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen some, you know, several states sort of, you know, turn the tide, come towards accepting gay marriage as just marriage. It's just people that love each other.
I think the key thing is that, you know, change is also always scary for people. You know, it's like, oh, I don't like that because it threatens my idea of what's normal, or they think that if these things happen, that it's going to sort of change the world forever. And often what you find is that once these laws are passed, people forget about them because it's really not an issue. You know, there are so many more important things that we should be focusing on, you know.
Yeah.
Hunger, poverty, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Not
you know,
who's sleeping with who.
Yeah, I just think, you know, it's such a shame that we get so kind of caught up in that, you know.
One of the interesting things, I think one of the things that's been a big headline this year has been transgender rights, especially, you know, Laverne Cox kind of being, you know, a real sort of touch point for a lot of people on Orange is the New Black. And, you know, do you feel like in terms of like the last frontier, the last kind of battle, is that how you see, you know, kind of like transgender kind of rights as being kind of the next battle for the LGBTQ community?
I think, you know, it's been very surprising and heartening, you know, that there are some things that happened in America that you sort of think would have happened in the UK first, you know. I think in some respects, you know, even when you go back to when AIDS first, you know, exploded, I was always very impressed by the kind of passion, you know, of you know, the American lobby groups and charities and individuals that really, really fought for change and did incredible things. So, you know, there's two sides to every country. I mean, there's this side to America that's really conservative, you know, that's the sort of what we call the middle America, or what you call in England, middle England, you know, the sort of conservatives. And then there's this other side to America, which is kind of great and radical and inspiring. And, you know, that's the America that I love, you know.
Oh, I want to talk to you a little bit about. This is amazing. This is one of my favourite Boy George tweets of recent past. Blocked a ton of people. Feels great. You know, tell me a little bit about that feeling then.
Well, I think engaging. The problem with, you know, negativity, especially online negativity, because now people have a platform to kind of insult everyone. Whereas, like in the 70s or the 80s, people would sit in their living room and insult you, shout at the TV.
Just bitch at the telly, really. Yeah.
Now they have this platform called the internet where they can actually engage with you and say vile things. And being a Gemini, you know, I do like a row. So I
love that you're contingent that on my horoscope. I mean,
well, it is. You know, Geminis like to have the last word. You know, we're a split personality. We just really don't like anyone getting the upper hand. And,
I'm a Libra.
You know,
look at this.
Well, probably the same thing. You know, I just, you know, decided a few days ago that I would no longer engage with negativity. If you don't like me, then I'm just going to block you. I'm not even going to argue with you. Because what happens is it's only a handful of people. And once you retweet them, it turns into more than a handful, and it turns into 100 and 1,000, and then it becomes a hot topic. So what I do now is I concentrate on happy birthday, how's your mother, good luck with your exams, you know, all the kind of loving stuff, because actually that's a contribution. When you start arguing with these kind of mad people in basements, you know, you just encourage them. So I'm just not doing it anymore. So that's what I'll do now. I'll just block people.
Well, I do like that. And I also, I loved this as well. About to do morning, and you've got to say gongyo.
Gongyo, yes.
Gongyo. Feel free to join in. So spreading some love. So, you know, how do you think that that's changed you? How do you thrive today?
Well, I've been practicing Nichiren Buddhism for about 4 years. And, you know, what it does is it gives me, you know, a period in the morning and in the evening to really focus on what it is I want to do and, you know, how I want the day to go. And you know, just, you know, one of the most important things about chanting is that you're sort of, you know, you're also praying for peace, you know, you're praying for the happiness of other people, you know, even people that you're in conflict with. If there's anyone that, you know, you have a problem with, put them in your prayers. It's amazing what it does, you know, because it kind of dissipates any of that kind of negativity. But, you know, I just found for me, it's a practice that it improves my life on a daily basis, you know, and it changes the way that I behave, changes the way that I behave towards myself, towards other people, and I would highly recommend it.
And is that what you credit yourself as a kind of, I've got to say, because I'm imagining if you as a 20-year-old were listening to you talk now, what do you think that you would have said?
Well, you know, I've always been fascinated with spirituality, religion. You know, I always say I'm Catholic in my complications and Buddhist in my aspirations. I was raised a Catholic. So, you know, I have a Catholic sensibility, you know, an Irish...
Catholic guilt?
Yeah, all of that. I have had a strong Catholic upbringing, you know, and, you know, I respect that, you know, but, you know, Buddhism, Hinduism, you know, the reason I became vegetarian was because I met some Hare Krishna devotees in New York who preached to me many, many years ago. So, you know, spirituality and spiritual people have had a big, big effect on me as a person in my life, you know, and, you know, I think everybody is essentially looking for something bigger than themselves, you know.
And you think you found it?
I think I'm closer than I've been. I'm not sure if, you know, I think we're all a work in progress, you know. I think life is a work in progress, and I think the important thing is to kind of, you know, just to kind of focus on being happy and positive and...
Well, I've got to say, Boy George has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Was this live?
It was live, yes.
Hi, Christine.
And guys, thank you very much as well to the members of our community for the questions. Glenn, thank you so much. And of course, Culture Club kicks off their US tour on November 15th. Tickets are on sale now. For more information on Boy George, the tour or the band, you can check out the links below in our resource well. And stick around, there's much more coming up next on HuffPost Live.